Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Moraski, and welcome to Build Series live in New York. You know Jim James as singer of My Morning Jacket and more recently as a solo artist. Now he's teaming up with Teddy Abrams, composer and conductor of the Louisville Orchestra, for a very special project called The Order of Nature. They're going to join me here on the stage, so get excited everyone. Hey guys, welcome to Build. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah, congrats on this beautiful project, I must say. It's absolutely stunning to listen to. Jim, I'll start with you. You know, you've dabbled in so many things throughout your career, from like movies to your own work, of course, My Morning Jacket. Why take on something like this with an orchestra?
Well, Teddy came to town about 4 or 5 years ago and really brought this new sense of life to the orchestra in Louisville. And my great aunt played upright bass in the orchestra for about 30 years, from 1950 through the late 70s. And so our family had always been interested in the orchestra, but the orchestra had begun to kind of go downhill financially and creatively. But then Teddy came to town and really just bam, brought this interest back to the orchestra. So we met and hit it off and always wanted to do something together. And I had done various things with various other orchestras with My Morning Jacket before, but it was always kind of just like we played as a band and the orchestra played with us. And we wanted to create something where I was just singing and the orchestra was playing all of the music. So it took a little while, but we did it.
Wow, so it has been in the works for a while. Like, what came to your mind first to decide, okay, let's bring Jim into this equation, let's try to, take this to the next level?
Well, the Louisville Orchestra's approach for the last few years has been to be the most inclusive, and we also say the most exciting orchestra on the planet. And I mean, that's aspirational. We're not telling ourselves that we've done it.
Sure,
That's the goal. But one of the ways that we want to do that is by making the music that we share with the community something that everybody can connect with. And a lot of orchestras have a very narrow definition of what it is they play. And that doesn't connect with the entire community. We've got 1.2 million people to serve in Louisville. And partnering with somebody like Jim broadens our reach, it broadens the way we connect with everybody, and it changes the way the nation sees our town. So even though it actually just started with a friendship, we were friends before we decided to do this, the implications for an orchestra are huge because orchestras need to be doing something that's really leading in culture, not just kind of following or repeating. And this is a really special opportunity to have done that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, I think when you think of orchestra, you think like, okay, we've seen this before, et cetera. How are you bringing, in addition to this, bringing new life into the scene there?
Well, as Jim mentioned, we connect with so many different styles of music and local musicians. So we have done projects in virtually every genre imaginable. We've done tons of rap projects. We've done country projects, bluegrass projects, projects with rock bands, commissioned many living classical composers. And the energy around seeing something that's new and created just for you is really something that gets people excited about going to concerts again, not just putting on a suit and going to see something that you already have heard. I mean, we need folks to actually be energized about the experience of seeing an orchestra and feeling like it's vital. And these collaborations and reaching way beyond our borders and expanding our musical horizons, I think that's what will do it.
Well, this actually, it really does feel like a collaboration, as you say. How did you actually collaborate? I understand that you pretty much had the songs written and then you surfaced them to Teddy. Is that correct?
Well, we had this concept of let's do, well, first we're just like, will we do a song, a couple songs? And then we started getting around to the idea of wanting to do a song suite, like a suite of songs that was somewhere around 45 minutes that was just like flowed seamlessly from one to the next. And so I wrote 4 or 5 new original pieces for the thing, and then we were thinking of it as a live show, so I wanted to incorporate a few of my existing pieces of music that went thematically with the rest of the new songs, and then a couple of cover songs that I had fallen in love with from a Nina Simone and piano album that I also thought went thematically with the whole thing. And then Teddy took over from there after I sent him just guitar, vocal demos, and he wrote all the arrangements and the transitions between songs, and we kind of turned it into this, this suite.
Sweet. I like it. You know, you talk about themes. I mean, I know it's called the Order of Nature. I think there's a lot of nature in this. There's a lot of, I think I would even say, you know, talk about the current political state even. Can you talk a little bit about what you wanted to say with the record? What you could start with nature or, you know, go beyond that?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like you look at nature and you might see violence in nature. You might see an animal kill another animal because it's hungry or something, but you don't see hatred in nature. Like, hatred isn't a part of nature. And humans have this terrible thing called hatred that we're trying to unpack and try and help humans understand, all of us, like, why is there this thing called hatred? How do we get rid of it? And it feels like lately, you know, everybody agrees that lately it feels like the hatred pot has just been boiling over. And sadly, I feel like everybody's kind of playing into it and getting angry at each other. There's so much anger online. And so we just wanted to be a part of the healing force of saying, like, we want equality. We want fairness. We want to get to this goal of being in tune with nature, not only environmentally. You know, that's also another part of the album is where we're so out of tune environmentally with the planet. How do we get everybody back into tune? And I feel like that obviously starts with yourself. You know, you have to look at yourself, find out where have you gone wrong, what mistakes are you making, and then look to your neighbor, you know, who's right next door to you. How do I address them with more respect? How do I treat the planet with more respect? How do I practice what I preach? So yeah, the album as a whole, we're just trying to, like, put that force out there and be a voice for equality and be a voice for just awareness of love, trying to bring more love in the world.
I think it's much needed right now. Yeah.
Well, and the music itself and the way we work is supposed to reflect that very thing. It's to say that the borders in music don't need to exist. That why can't people from different backgrounds work together if they have that energy, that willingness to collaborate, and just an open spirit? It's kind of like what Jim said, even you know, with all the challenges in the kind of societal sphere, we look at it even in music, where you can listen to more music than ever in human history, yet the kind of things that we're told to listen to by whatever, you know, software you're using, it will say, we recommend this is in this genre, you're going to like that, doesn't really help build a global sense of what culture and music can be. And we're trying to, in our way, address that and show that going outside your boundaries and your borders can result in something really special. It opens us all up.
Yeah, breaking down the borders with the lyrics, with the type of music that you're doing as the collaboration and beyond that. You know, the song Back to the End of the World is one of those that kind of stands out to me as well. Thinking about climate change, I mean, what were you thinking about when you wrote that track? It has a beautiful accompanying video as well.
Thanks. Yeah, just thinking about, like, how do we go forward? How do we not look back at the past too much? 'Cause I feel like we all have this nostalgia, and we're all kind of sucked into this this social media days. You know, this because social media is also a very valuable tool to educate people and spread awareness about important things. But yeah, it's just like we're ignoring these solutions that are right in front of us. We're ignoring this whole new youth-led movement of, you know, these kids are giving these wonderful speeches and wonderful ideas on climate change and gun control, all these really important things. And sometimes you feel like none of the grown-ups are listening. You know, it's like, how do we get past that? How do we wake up, you know, and just get back to the truth of, you know, I feel like everybody feels like the truth is gone. There's no more truth anymore. It's like, what happened to truth?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's like anybody can say what they want and then have their own news network to back it up. You know, and that, I think there's a lot of us that are so tired of the way things are right now. And it's like, let's find another path where we can all get together.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the same time, you know, seeing that youth, the young people speak up and take a stand is inspiring. So it is somewhat of those things. Okay, like, you know, maybe there is a hope for the future too. I know one of the songs was also inspired, you know, right after the Pulse Orlando shooting. I mean, what was like, that was very troubling. It's not the only shooting that we've seen through the years. I mean, how did you channel that into a song?
Well, I mean, I like many people, I'm just so tired of the violence. I'm so tired of the shootings. That somebody asked me that question in another interview, and they referenced another shooting. You know, and we both looked at each other and were like, how sad is it that you're mistaking the shooting that I wrote a song about? Because there's so many shootings. And the main message of that song, called Here in Spirit, is just the main line in the song is, if you don't speak out, we can't hear it. So it's just an encouragement to everybody to speak out and speak up for equality and for fairness and for peace. Because if you don't speak out, nobody's going to know, you know. And I feel like for so long, a lot of people have been lucky and a lot of people have been asleep. You know, a lot of people have just fallen asleep. And while the world has just gotten worse and worse for so many people, and I think it's just all of our duty, because there are people suffering right now. There's so much suffering in the world, whether it's like lack of health care or mental health issues here in the States, or not to mention what's going on our borders. You know, it's just like there's so much suffering. And I really feel like the classic line of none of us are free until all of us are free is so true, because you may be one of the fortunate ones who has a nice apartment and has a safe life and has health insurance, but it's like you don't live in a bubble. You know, we're all part of this thing together. And so I just feel like if we're not all trying to work towards this ultimate goal of freedom for everybody, you know, because I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think it's so easy for every person in the world to have a nice life, you know, have a nice house for their family, have health insurance, you know, and have it not be such a struggle, you know?
Right. I mean, here you are talking about, you know, you're talking about serious issues, but you're also, you know, spreading that message of hope and you know, positivity with the music. Teddy, how do you sort of balance that out with your music and create around what Jim's bringing to you?
Well, because I don't often get the opportunity to address these issues. As I say, if we're presenting a Beethoven symphony, you know, it could make you feel certain things, and I believe it has eternal communicative abilities. I believe that about all the music that we play, the great music from 500 years ago or pieces that we've commissioned 2 days ago. I think it has a universal message, but much of it doesn't have a lyrical content or a narrative like this. I mean, if you ask me what the Mozart Jupiter Symphony is about, it's probably not about climate change. I mean, it's a great piece, but it maybe could inspire somebody to do something. But the great thing about this project is that it does have this direct message. And my job was to create the entire kind of orchestral world around it, so that rather than having kind of this flat kind of musical element that just backs up Jim, I would create basically a world of sound for him to live inside, so that every song had its own kind of qualities, as if I was a painter painting every element, from the farthest off bits of the sky to the things right up close. And that it means a very, very detailed approach to how I would look at each song and turn it into the instrumental parts that you hear, like the Back to the End of the World that you just heard. It starts off with one single cellist just strumming like a guitar and a theremin patch that's playing at the same time, and then slowly gets filtered in with lots of different elements, including a bluegrassy violin section. And I mean, it's all designed to elucidate and really draw forth what Jim's message is, and to give it that sonic depth.
And even like there's the take on the Star Spangled Banner, right? That's like
Oh, you got that.
yeah. There's a version of that as well, right? I mean, that's a way of kind of signaling to the listener too what you're trying to say.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about wanting to make some feeling of the Star Spangled Banner disintegrating, you know, because a lot of us feel like the Star Spangled Banner is disintegrating. It's a mess, you know. There's these things that we're trying to deal with thematically. So it's like, yeah, how do we rewrite the Star Spangled Banner in a new way, in the vision of the America that we believe in? Because America is a complex place. It's built on stolen land. It's built by slave labor. You know, there's these things that America has not wanted to address that I feel like we really need to address as people if we want to heal. I feel like we got to really get in there and talk about some uncomfortable stuff, but talk about it with love and try to heal this divide so that we can be what America is supposed to be, which is a land of equality for all, you know, that is what they say it is. Because I think a lot of us feel like it's not what they say it is.
Sure. I mean, you go on. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, and that's one of my favorite parts of the piece. And, you know, this is really a suite. It's designed to be listened from the beginning to the end. It doesn't stop. And the transition that includes that Star Spangled Banner reference is a very small one, but it goes from the beautiful Nina Simone song, Who Am I?, where the beginning of that, Who am I? Jim should be singing, not me, but is actually the first three notes of the banner. And as it transitions out, it's in a technique we call fugue, which is one instrument after another plays the same theme starting on a different note, and it all piles on top. This thing that had once been this beautiful opening of Who Am I turns into that kind of banner-like reference in this fugal state, and then disintegrates, and it goes into probably the most rock or swing song on the whole album. So that's how the thing was tied together, so it's not discrete pieces.
Sure, sure. I mean, creating something like this, I would imagine, is a little different from what you do in your solo work in My Morning Jacket. I mean, how does it differ when you're writing lyrically? Or maybe it's the same. Maybe it's a similar process for you.
Songs are so weird because songs just kind of come from nowhere. I don't really know where they come from. And sometimes I'll put details from my life in the song. Something will happen that I'll put in there consciously, but a lot of things just come. I don't really understand where they come from. And one of the coolest things about music that we've talked about a lot with this release is I feel like every song is a seed, and every single song in the world, doesn't matter. Show me any song, you could do a different version of it. You could do a country version. You could do a hip hop version. You could do a classical version. You could spin the song any way you want, and that's something that's so cool to me. So I try to let a thing be thematically tied or lyrically tied or whatever it is I'm trying to think about. But musically, it's just so beautiful what a song can be. It's limitless.
Sure. I mean, you were touring just this year with My Morning Jacket, right? Have you been thinking about your next project as a group and because it's been a few years since we've seen a full album from you guys.
Yeah, we've already started another My Morning Jacket record. We're maybe halfway through.
Nice.
And so that's been fun.
Anything you could tell us about it? Any tease?
No. I mean, there's not really. We're just kind of playing,
Yeah.
and recording and trying to see. It's funny with that and with a lot of things. I feel like I don't get excited about anything anymore because oftentimes the song I was most excited about doesn't make the record, and the little 30-second chunk that I thought was just a throwaway thing turns out to be the song that everybody loves. So it's like I try to just let the music talk to me and go through all the music that I have, and then the album usually makes itself.
That's awesome. I mean, thinking about it now, it's been how many years now? 20 years since more than 20 years, about 21 years since you started My Morning Jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think you'd be sitting on the stage, putting out an album with Teddy, still playing with My Morning Jacket and doing everything that you kind of set out to do?
God, I try not to think about things too much. I try to just let them, because things change. There were years that I didn't think I'd do any more My Morning Jacket records. And now it's like I'm in love with it again. There's things come and go, and I feel like I just try to listen to the earth, listen to what's going on, listen to the spirits around us, because I get so lost.
Do you feel like a couple of years ago you said something about, kind of stepping back from a rock and roll lifestyle, sort of like taking a step back in that way? Do you feel like you're still doing that? And how are you kind of portraying, looking at life in that way?
I just try to keep it from being a seesaw. I feel like it's like, I'm going to calm down. Yeah. I'm going to eat healthy. Yeah. I'm going to not drink. And it's like, I'm like drinking and smoking and eating terribly. So it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to keep a more level balance. I feel like that's all of our quest in this world is to try to stay balanced.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all you can do, right? So do you think you guys would work together again on another project?
Never. No, it's been such a thrill, such a pleasure.
Well, and this is very rare for an orchestra to have the kind of energy and excitement around a release of an album. I mean, I would ask anybody here to name the last orchestra album that came out that people were talking about. It just doesn't happen. Sure. This is really special, and it really elevates the entire world that I come from, which these musicians are so incredible and work so hard and have such talent, and they serve their communities, but the vast majority of the time, nobody takes any notice. They put out records, and they just, whatever happens. And this is a real opportunity to actually put this out there and tell our story on a big platform, and it's thanks to Jim and his vision for this and the collaborative spirit.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that and what the meaning of home, because that's where you grew up in Louisville, like why that's important to you to kind of go back and create something like this?
Well, I mean, home is special to all of us. That's the kind of at the center of a lot of this stuff is like nobody chooses where they're born. Nobody chooses what they look like when they're born. You know what I mean? It's like these things we fight about so much with borders, the color of a person's skin, their sexual orientation, these things that people don't choose. So why are we fighting about them? And I feel like being born in Louisville has given me such a unique perspective on the world because Louisville is this strange place that's kind of right in the middle. You know, it's like Kentucky. Everybody from the South thinks it's the North. Everybody from the North thinks it's the South. It's not Midwest. It's like this really unique place. So coming from Louisville, it also kind of gave us kind of a scrappy fighting spirit because, like, there were no record scouts hungry to sign bands in Louisville, so we, like, really had to, like, get in the van and get out there and, like, try and make it happen if we wanted to make anything happen at all. So I feel like that's why what Teddy's done in Louisville has been so exciting because the orchestra was just this thing where people are like, yeah, the orchestra, they play those, what is it, Beethoven or whatever. It's like people, they weren't trying to engage with the audience either. So, it's like if you don't try to engage with your audience is going to fall asleep or die or forget about you, and it's like the perspective I think that Louisville has brought both of us is so unique, and I'm just so grateful for it.
Well, thank you for coming by today. Before I let you two go, we have some questions from the crowd, so let's
Cool.
get to it. Yeah. Who's first? Right here.
Well, first, thanks for last night. It was special. It was beautiful. A little too short, but my question was: I know the album you actually recorded live in like one take. Can you talk? Did you ever go in the studio? Was that like talk about how you do that? Because that's a rare situation that you put an album out.
Well, we were just talking about that because we recorded 2 live shows, a Friday night and a Saturday night, and there were, we're all kind of, most musicians are kind of perfectionists, so you might hear a thing and you're like, oh man, I wish that thing could have been better. But the crazy thing about recording an orchestra, at least the way that we did, was anything you soloed had everything else in it. So it's like even if you wanted to fix a flute or if I wanted to fix my vocal, you literally couldn't because it was flooded with all this other stuff. And we could have done some back and forth between Friday and Saturday night, but Friday just didn't have the magic that Saturday night. Saturday had that magic, and anytime I'd go check in with Friday's show, I was just like, I don't think so. So it just kind of the universe almost dictated because the cost of recording an orchestra and the union rules and all the hoops you have to jump through are phenomenal. So if we wouldn't have done it, I don't think it ever would have happened. So luckily, Saturday night's performance was we all really loved it, and it's flawed, but I kind of like that too because you don't hear records that are flawed that much nowadays. Because with the computer, you can tune everything, you can scoot everything. Most every record you hear, I don't care what genre it is so electronically manipulated that you're hearing. It's kind of half and half computer and human. It's like most records are cyborgs nowadays or androids, and it's wild to just like try and put out a record and say, here it is. It's like we love it. Maybe it's not perfect, but that's kind of what I like about it.
And it's mixed and edited really beautifully from that perspective, but it's not sliced up. And I can tell you most orchestral albums, the first movement of a Mahler symphony might have 300-400 little teeny splices. So what you're hearing is really rounded and beautifully polished. But on this record, you're hearing really what the audience experienced, and you can actually hear the audience clapping at times. So this mix of Jim's fans and the subscribers to the orchestra and all these people that had come to this concert who were not our typical concert goers added to the energy, which you're just not going to find on even most live orchestral albums because it's usually more of a standard audience. It was really a neat opportunity there.
Thank you for that question. That's a really neat. We have time for one more question.
Hi. You mentioned Nina Simone and climate change. I was just wondering what else visually or sonically inspired the record.
Only those 2 things. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, walking really inspires me a lot, like nature. I feel like for me, every day it's really important to get out into nature, even if I'm busy and I only have 5 minutes. Even if you're in the city like this, just stepping outside the door is nature. You're out in the elements. And to me, that's how I kind of like get my connection back to the land and back to the air that we all breathe and the sun that shines on all of us. And that's what I'm always searching for and trying to put in my music is how can I be a part of the connecting force? How can I be a part of the force where we can all remember that we really are all the same at the end of the day? It's like we all want the same things. We all want love. We all want our family to be safe. We all want a job we love. It's like these things that every human wants that for some reason we're all fighting about, it's like I just try to like tap into nature for that, to get out in nature and just feel those things.
Great. Well, thank you for that question. I think that's a great place to end our chat today. So I really appreciate you coming by, Build.
Thanks.
Thanks for the great questions. And give it up for Jim James, Teddy Abrams. The album is out now. It's called The Order of Nature.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.